All right.
Because mine's virtual.
Now,
Okay, yes.
what even happened? What was the first question? I remember talking about the D&D movie, and then
So we're
Everybody
talking about
got
creating
hit.
stories.
our audience got hit by the deafen spell and rolled a 1
Yeah.
on their saving throw. What's going on? What was the question?
Justin is walking us through some of the steps he uses to create a story.
Ooh,
Yeah, man. Storytelling. I love this concept for the round table, or for the point of inspiration. And because honestly, the game is you and your buddies getting together, telling a story together. So some of the classic things that I like to do whenever I tell a story is where I get my inspiration. And it is from all the media I consume. And as I'm sitting there and watching it, I'm like, how would this play out at the table? You know, I see somebody do something cool. You see John Wick do The Thing, right? You see like Sylvester Stallone rappel from a helicopter with a minigun, and you're like, that's a thing that I know my players want to do, and I want them to do it too, and I want it to feel like that movie moment. So I just start breaking it down. You notice that in those movies, a lot of times it's not like, oh, do you fall? Do you just like slide all the way down and take a bunch of damage? No, it's your carabiner is like, it's like starting to slowly, weaken and fray. And there's a couple turns of that. So like your player gets to do the minigun and the rappel. You make them roll, they fail, the carabiner stretches a little. So it's prolonging those moments of failure and success. And that's kind of where I get it. I look for what they want to do, and I ask them explicitly, tell me what's happening. Tell me what happens. What do you think this scene is? Don't ask me if there is a chandelier. Tell me what you want to do with the chandelier in this room, and we'll go from there. And that's how we'll start telling the story for our action scenes. That's kind of, like how I like to do.
Okay. So you like special scenes, moments as a big part of your stories. Okay. So what about more like plot, or like, I guess long-term story building? Ethan, what do you think about that?
I just draw from the resources that I like. Different movies, different shows, different animes.
What's an example?
I know one. I know one of his examples.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What is it?
Champions of Norath.
Champions of
Haven't
Norath.
seen a
Oh,
mammoth man
yeah.
in hours.
Yeah, that's like the first game that I think I ever was a DM. I
Yep.
made the Delving into Blackrock Deep, or I forget what it was called, but yeah, the
Yeah.
Champions of Norath.
And that's
Um,
and that's honestly was like some of our, like us three really like becoming friends was underneath that platform behind those controllers, right? Like playing
Yeah.
champs together.
That's
Yeah.
true.
But yeah, just the shows that I mean, lately it's more shows that are, I guess, have more meaning,
Mhm.
and I feel like that everybody recognizes as a great story, and I try to just
Something a
put
little
my
more mature.
own little spin on it, and then of course you can't always get the sort of emotion or feeling out of it that you may want. So that's when it comes down to kind of just rolling with the punches and what the players do. And whenever you want those sort of heavy hitting moments, you know, they'll arise, and you know, you kind of plug and play as you go. You'll get the funny moments, you get the serious moments, you know, get the scary moments.
I think that like you railroading was one of the things that you have in later on in our questions. And that plug and play is definitely one of those things that railroading, it doesn't always feel good whenever the players are actively trying to not go in that direction. You know, they're not trying to go behind that door. They're not trying to meet that person. And you're like, no, 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 I've spent hours on this. They're in this location. And you're doing yourself a disservice if you try to set the scene, like how they get there, why they get there, what, you know, when they get there. You're doing yourself a disservice. But if you plug and play, you say, oh, this is a cool person that I'd like them to meet. This is the information they have, and you just take that and you leave it as a bullet point. They're gonna open a door, and that they don't know what's behind it, right? So that person can be there at that moment, especially if they're ready for it, or if you know, whenever. That's why I ask my players, hey, what are you what are we trying to do? What's this, what's this next leg of the story? And they're like, oh, we're actively searching for information on this. That's what I would like to do. Cool. Now it's time that I grab that stuff, and now it's time because they're ready for it. We're all ready for that.
Okay, yeah. So, probably Ethan, in terms of like your like whatever, because anytime you build a campaign, you do have a main plot, right? The beginning and end, because all everybody's there for a story. If there's not a story, then I guess technically they could generate their own. But so how working your main plot into your like side quests, or just reacting to the players, even how do you work that?
I mean, I think that all depends what the theme of the story is. Will depend on what I'm trying to go for. And as far as getting side quests, that's basically what I so far have used the players for. Everybody has their own backstories, and that's kind of you use those side quests to create the connections to the main story, and that's kind of an easy tool to bring everybody's characters together, even if they don't make sense to be together in the first place. You can establish those connections later on, and I think that can really amplify a character's development.
Okay.
I've been experimenting
So,
with that idea. But I've
Sorry.
been experimenting with that idea, by the way, in my head, like typing out notes of ways that you can bring those characters' backstories in. Just, you know, maybe it's a side quest, maybe it makes the world feel real to them. But
Mhm.
like, I found, okay, so one of my players, I think I've talked about this a little bit too in the past. One of my players was really, really drawn to an NPC, and all I did was say in my head, they were in the war together. And I didn't say how or why or how special the NPC was or any of that. And I was like, I would like you to roll a history check for me, you know, just see if you recognize this person. And they rolled very poorly. And I was like, okay, so they don't remember this person, but this person remembers them. And I just kept that a secret because I didn't have to make up how they knew each other and why. And that resonated with that person so much that the NPC was like, "You don't remember me, do you?" Or, "Oh, sorry, well, right." She had an Irish accent. "You don't remember me, do you?" Well, this is going to be very interesting, isn't it? And that was it. And the player was so like, we were, you know, it's like, "Hey, we have some downtime. What would you guys like to do?" He's like, I'm making her some tea. Where is she? I go find her. I'm fixing her. She had a mechanical leg. I'm fixing her leg. You know, I have tinker's tools. Like, I would like to, you said it was squeaking, right? So I'd like make some oil. I'm going to go out and get some linseed. I'm going to make some linseed oil. And they were doing all this backstory stuff just because they were like, and I asked him later, I was like, "Why are you so drawn?" He's like, because it's a mystery. She knows me, but I don't know her. I don't remember her. And I want to know what that history is. And I'm thinking, me too, bro. I haven't made it up. I don't know. um, but like, I had her history. You know, I made a couple bullet points for her, but that was it. And they were very simple. You know, she was in the war. She and she separated from her kingdom because of some atrocities, and that was it. And from that came this really big, lively character that even is in Ethan. You is in your game. You know, like you've taken this character and brought it into your game, and did one of the most beautiful, um, just the most beautiful, like 3-person. It's not really a monologue, but it was. You did this monologue between 3 characters, uh, and each of them had so much life, and and the whole Velma was not a big character in my world until that mystery happened. And I think that story, you know, that story would have never been told if it wasn't for the fact that they just rolled poorly on a history check, and I kept it simple. I plug and played it, you know. I had a few bullet points, and I was like, all right, let's use this to inform what's happening. And the player wanted it to be a part of the story. And it not only did it become a big part of my story, now it's becoming a part of Ethan's story as well. And, you know, and just because the player wanted it, you know, it's not something I wanted, the player wanted it, right? And all the cool information about like what happens next in the story I'm telling, Velma's gonna have it because they want to talk to her, you know. Next time they go talk to her and I need to tell them something, she's gonna tell them, you know.
I think that brings up a cool thing too with having multiple games in the same world is how different takes and stories and how, you know, our own current stories change based off of things that can happen or can change, don't necessarily have to, but you know, just how multiple games at once provide that extra depth in the story for the players.
Yeah, and the different players that interact, you know. So, Evan, your character didn't get to interact with Velma in my story, but now you've got to see her and interact with her in Ethan's story, and have made an impact on that, you know, that's gonna ripple out and carry through. if there's an odd, like, depending on what your character does, if Velma sees, like, where did her leg come from? Maybe you build it. Who knows? You know, I don't
Mhm.
know. That and so like that's maybe she likes auto gnomes, maybe she doesn't. That all depends on how you play it. Maybe she's
Right.
indifferent. I'm not gonna put weight on it unless you add something to the scale and tip it in that direction.
Her
Yeah.
leg is Boom. It's
Is
it's
just your like if you die, who knows? Maybe she just takes you apart.
Reprogrammed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Upon further inspection of Eobard, it's like tinkering around with the leg and the eyes open up. I am
Yeah.
And yeah, speaking of that, I've
BOOM.
had other players that I've played with characters, like you're saying, like be NPCs too, and some of the like in like especially early on in the Tower of Trials campaign,
Mhm.
you guys interacted with some of other players that people played in like Mjolnir's Fall that were like part of different adventure campaigns and stuff. So
And so you had something you wanted to tell us about the tower, right? And then you were like, also, I want them to know this cool person. And when we went out looking for that information, you're like, by the way, here's a cool person, and here's the information, and it's kind of an easy one-to-one, right? Like do. And it doesn't feel like a railroad.
And especially when the other player put so much effort into this character and they've reached this elite status, and then you guys, as at the time, guys were basically rank 1, and if there, was copper rank, but and then you see this mithril, max rank adventurer come walking through like royalty essentially in that area of the world,
Cool.
and it's like, oh god. Who is that?
Mm-hmm. How'd they get there?
Right.
Yeah, it's cool to further immortalize other players' PCs. Not only to, for somebody to create something for them to have some sort of permanence in the world's lore, but to also show up in different games is cool.
Mm-hmm. I think with my storytelling as a PC, there are times whenever I see the railroad and I want to dance around, like serpentine on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you do.
I like the serpentine. I'm still going in that direction, but I like to serpentine a little, right? It's fun. Because when you serpentine, you do leave these like wakes of places where, other people, I like to create a big rift where other people can like come in and fill in a little spot, Let's let's not just get straight to the point. Let's smell the roses and see what everybody has to say about roses for a little bit.
You know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
Oh, you talking about my first, because Tower of Trials was my first like campaign. I've done one shots, several one shots, and my first like actual campaign, and it's about this Tower of Trials and like becoming demigods. You guys already kind of knew the whole like intense, fairly early on from meeting Laverne, and then Rourke just wants to just find ways to like take out the gods. Like, okay.
Yeah. Which I actually I was just thinking about that. I like this anti-establishment, this like character, right? This who anti-authoritarian, and I think that resonates with you guys were in the military, so maybe it was maybe that was ironed out. That crease was ironed a little bit. But I think there's a lot of people who like that like anti-authority kind of thing. And I've been experimenting with that character, and I think that's actually the full maturity of that is come to fruition with Santiago and Velma, and there was a bad ruler, and so I latched onto that. I was like, oh, this is a perfect segue of that. This is a natural thing where these people separated from the authority for the right reasons, and now you know, and it's interesting with that storytelling of being a player and doing that. I may have not got it right a couple times, and you did a good job as a DM, just rolling with those punches, being like, well, it's not perfect, but we're not professionals either, you know. It's like just roll with
Mhm.
it and let it, you know. Um, you know, you did a really good job with that, and in a way that didn't deter me from still wanting that character to hit the nail on the head. You know,
Yeah.
where I wasn't like, "Oh, this guy sucks. I never want to play him again." I did a bad job, or I made the game not
Yeah.
fun, or something.
Yeah, no, I'm always down to follow the bits, you know, or
Hmm.
follow the trail.
Hmm.
But, all
So
right,
I
so
guess what would you do? Okay, so you have with storytelling, you have like a story. You're like, okay, the session one, you guys meet. Yeah, like we're gonna establish the world and how it works. Um, Part of that is all of the work that we do as DMs, like writing a story, and we say, okay, um, a queen shaped like a giant spider who controls blue fire is going to destroy this world that you live in, and that's the end of and you're gonna kill her. So that's the end of the story, and then you start at the beginning, right? Um, it can be, I think, and this is a skew to what we're talking about, but it can be hard to not get excited about the end of the story when you're playing, when you're running the game. You know, it's like, okay, guys, I
hmm
know we're picking flowers, and I know you want to steal something from town or whatever, but like, there's a war about to happen. Like, let's get to it. How do you stop yourself from rushing the players to the next plot point that you're excited about? How do you keep yourself in the game playing with them and not feel like they are playing kind of against you?
I mean, something like Ethan has spoke on before, is leaving those breadcrumbs and like all those opportunities there. Um, but you never want to. The worst feeling is making your players feel like they can't like necessarily like do what they want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you keep nudging those opportunities, and
Yeah.
you know it could even just change the story a little bit, maybe, or like make it even more serious because they waited too long, and that makes the
Yeah.
encounter, you know, next time they come to that part of the story, that encounter is just like, you know, that much more hard or more epic. Um,
If you
and
have a
then
group
they
of
learn, oh
mercenaries
man, yeah,
kidnapping
like
people, and you're like, oh, they kidnapped somebody, one person every night, and till eventually they start noticing that person that they went to talk to every morning is missing. You
or one
know?
of their party members gets kidnapped in the
Yeah,
middle of the
that's
night
yeah.
at the inn or something, you know, like oh man, maybe we shouldn't have waited, but it doesn't. It's not necessarily railroading them though.
Yeah.
It's just adding to the story.
I think
A
that's where
little more grave consequences.
I think it's good to have a healthy amount of tempo change. You know, for the long
Yeah.
story, you know, you want it to be this slow unraveling uh, story, so it slowly builds up over time, and then when you finally get to that point and stuff starts rolling downhill, you know, it gets even more exciting. But
The
there's still
climax.
room to there's still room for what is it called, the rising action or something like that.
Yes. Yes. The rising action.
When you're
Yes.
going along the incline, you know, it's fine that it's slow and steady because sometimes that helps make the climax even more meaningful. Um, so
Do you
yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
talk a little bit about maybe like the beginning, middle, and end? Like you were talking about rising action towards a climax. Do you want to maybe say like the structure you're talking about? that you follow here, that you're referencing, for people who maybe haven't looked into storytelling, there are structures. You know, I mean, it's the oldest art we have as human beings, is to tell stories.
So my campaign that I ran, I didn't really break it down into an actual like story writing structure like that. I was thinking more in terms of like acts, like Diablo, just sections of a story. So, or milestones. You know, you get through one section of the story, and then that begins. So, like modules, there's acts, kind of the same thing. And sometimes you don't really know when you're going to complete one or not. You know, sometimes these epic moments just unfold themselves naturally that you don't even plan for. And you're like, well,
those are the best.
Hey, this is an intense moment that deserves a little bit more attention, that just kind of unraveled on the players and the DM. And sometimes you just got to highlight it and then kind of, you know, let it work into the story that you have planned out.
Yeah, I think that I have this natural inclination to almost rush into the heavier parts of the story. It's part of how I tell stories. It's part of how I enjoy stories, you know. That moment of comedy to me is not as enjoyable as that moment of solace or despair or realization, like immense realization of, like, you know, coming of age or like overcoming something in your life, you know, all these really heavy moments. And it's that, you know, I'm always in rising action, and sometimes I find myself, like, I get to a part of the story, I'm like, this isn't even the end of the story, and my players are scared. They're like, we're gonna die. I'm like, oh, you still have 10 rooms of this dungeon left. This isn't as bad as what it seems on paper. On paper, this is easy, but I have told the story wrong, you know. And I think so. There was a moment in a game that you were playing, Ethan, where you guys belunked into like the Underdark, basically, like a kind of a forgotten portion of it, and all of these weird alien kind of ancient structures that you're like spelunking by, and you get to the door of this occult, this like cultist lair, and there are like 10 people in robes all in a circle chanting, and you guys prepare for war. And as soon as you fight them, you realized, like, you just obliterated them, and because you realize they're just regular people who happened, you know, just be at the party, kind of thing, you know. These weren't high level cultists or anything. They were just, hey, put this robe on and start chanting, or else something bad will happen to you. They're just fishermen. They're just commoners. But you guys ruined them, and I think you guys had more fun just destroying these people, like, and describing it too. It's like, I noticed that in that fight scene, you began to explain all of your actions in a much more glorious way, because you felt that you were a badass, you know, you felt in control, like there was no way to lose. So you began to do things like flip upside down over top of your party members and then do a kick. You know, and even if I was like, you might have to make an acrobatics, you're like, send it. I don't care if I miss. This guy sucks. Like, it doesn't matter if I miss. I'm gonna kill him regardless. If it takes, you know, he can't kill me before I kill him, no matter what. And I noticed that in the storytelling, it made it. Yeah, you're an occultist layer, and yeah, they're like summoning some dark spirit, but you guys, and then it became a scramble. Yeah, the guys didn't even try to fight you. They were like running for the magic staff to finish the ritual. They were like, "Oh shit!" Ah! And they're like a game of rugby. They were passing it. They're like you would go to and then throw it to the next guy because their mission was again the bullet point. These guys are commoners. They have been told to finish the ritual or else their kidnapped family members, they'll never see their kidnapped family members again, right? And so they were like, we don't care if you beat us up. We have to finish this ritual because you're not scary. The main bad guy has my family. He's scary. And so it was, and then your guys like, wait a minute, we're not even supposed to beat him up. And it was, you did. You killed all of them ruthlessly. But like they were still like and they weren't even attacking you. They were just trying to keep the stick away from you, like running around the room. And it was a very interesting part of the story, and what you guys did with that was all you, the way you guys told it was awesome.
They're just a bunch of cowards.
Yeah, they were fishermen and like barkeeps. Barrel makers. I'm just a barrel maker, man. Leave me alone. He said he's gonna kill my wife. I have to do this. You don't understand.
I remember getting information about the last guy that had a daughter that was captured, but I don't think we interacted with any of the others to find that information out.
Yeah, at the very end, I did this I put myself in the shoes of a father who had his daughter kidnapped and had been shown her, they knifed her throat basically. It was like you will finish this ritual or you will never see her, blah blah blah. And he's like, and I'm crying as Justin is crying, pretending to be this guy, tears in my eyes. My heart was hurting, and you guys were like, "Come with us." He's like, "What do you mean, come with you? There's nothing I can do. If I go with you, and you kill everything in here, and you stop, he's not in here. He's there with my daughter. So if he comes down here and I'm not down here, he will kill my daughter. I can't go with you. Let me leave, and I will try to go save her. But I can't go adventure the rest of the dungeon with you." And you guys were like, "Well, we tried," and then you just murdered him. You just stabbed him to death right there.
Well, I knocked him out for sure. And then I think there was an attempt to maybe interrogate, and like just one
yeah,
hit,
it's like one
murdered
hit
him,
point.
so.
Yeah,
I think somebody was like trying to do like a torture maneuver or something.
Yeah,
And
and
they're
how
like,
much
"Oh, they're dead."
how much can the factory worker handle? Not a lot, dude. Like,
All right. Well, I have another topic for us.
Okay.
all right, what's that?
Let's go into, I guess, short campaign versus long campaigns. What is considered a short versus long campaign? I guess we can figure that out now. So let's talk about like what your favorite parts about a short versus long campaign are. Pros and cons, stuff like that.
I would ask you what you think because you've been playing with the same people since 2008. So what's, from your point of view, which is very different than most people who play the game, what's a short versus long campaign, Evan?
So, I would say a long campaign, in my opinion, I think it's an opinion. I don't think there's there's no guide or rule, like policy.
No.
This is a long campaign, but I can't even say 1 to 20 or 3 to 20 even, because especially with the way 5e is now, and the milestoning and epic campaigns are built to go quicker, and typically in
I've
terms
always
of
done milestoning, even back in the
well,
day.
yeah, for sure. It's great because you know, you can abuse XP leveling for sure, but accidentally abuse it as the DM. Like, oh, whoops,
And
they just
it also pushes it pushes plot too. You know, it's like, hey,
yeah,
we've won another level. Let's go do something epic. Let's let's
yeah.
hit that next leg.
But say, like, long-term campaigns definitely, like, honestly, anything over 6 months probably. In reality, I would say is in the terms of long, because committing yourself to that long with the same group of people
Playing once a
is
week or playing once every other
yeah,
week or something like that.
that's a long time. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, playing long campaigns,
You only get
I'd
you
say
only
is
get like
my
80 of
favorite
those,
though.
by the way.
Yeah,
You only get like 80 of those like 6-month things, like from start
yeah,
to finish in a human
right,
lifetime, right? So
right. You get like a lot more investment into your character or characters, depending. Because technically, my first like real full campaign, I ended up playing two because of a character death, but which was awesome because that character is now a deity in our uh, lore. So, but anyways,
Emma,
yeah, he died and was originally an Einarjar or Ettenjar
mhm.
after being taken up by Valkyries, but yeah, you just get like a lot more story and yeah, like the stories feel better in my opinion too. The longer they take, I guess. Well, as long as it's not, I mean, it's different between dragging, but as long as you feel like you accomplish something every session. Um, and then sometimes with the short campaigns, like even the Tower of Trials was kind of short, and all the players said they loved it or enjoyed it, so like
Yeah,
I guess it was good, but sometimes it's like maybe as a DM you may feel like you didn't get your point across,
that
maybe,
happens a
or you know
lot
what I mean.
as a DM.
Yeah, but as a player, it is cool with short campaigns because then you get to play more characters, and who doesn't like building characters, right?
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of full world growth, player growth, long term is definitely my favorite.
It's intimidating for me as a DM to like I feel like, and this is something I'm trying to break. Um I feel like I'm supposed to generate the interest in a game. And I feel like whenever a game, a play group doesn't work out, that it rests on my shoulders as a DM, being, being a DM, you're a leader as well as like a babysitter sometimes, as well as
Hmm.
a scheduler, and I feel like I take it really personal, and I think we all three of us do, or else we wouldn't be spending our Friday afternoon talking about the game. And I'm trying to step away from that because to I I was always doing short-term campaigns. I was always, rushing that, like always building tension, always, trying to climb to the most epic part of the story. And and I wasn't, because I felt that my players would grow bored, right? And I realized they grow bored of this, like one person telling the story instead of them also telling the story.
Hmm.
um, they'll reach out to you. They'll message you a point. You say, "Hey, man, I'd really like to get into my backstory, or I want to make this magic item. Here is 14 books that I read about it. Here, did you have time to read those?" They'll message you every afternoon before
Yeah.
the campaign. And so it's like, I agree with you. I think long form storytelling is the best way to do it, especially if you just on an average player base. The regular player, the regular person, wants to goof with their buds.
Mhm.
And and if you find a group of people who are like, yeah, man, I've got a lot going on. I have 10 weeks that I can commit to. Then you open up and say, hey, we're gonna do a short term. Hey, you know what? I've got a story. I'm gonna give you all the plot points as we go. And it's going to be this kind of story. It's gonna be a murder mystery. Well, they gear up for murder mystery, or it's going to be an epic fantasy, or whatever it is. We're going to kill a god. Like, you're going to be like challenging theocracy. So they gear up for that. Or like the war campaign. You know, it's like, hey, you guys are soldiers. You're fighting in a war, and but we already know the outcome. You don't kill the bad guy. Somebody else has already killed the bad guy. You don't kill the bad guy. So that there's a special niche for that, where we get to have a lot of fun. But I think the long form storytelling is a better way to do it, and to just it takes pressure off of you as a DM. You're in town and you're like, hey guys, what would you like to do? And you just have one plot point for the story this week. Or you saw something funny happen. You saw, like, today I saw somebody try to steal a bunch of stuff from a store. And as soon as somebody tried to stop them, they had a big shopping cart, and they just dumped all the stuff and just kept walking really robotically across the parking lot, because there was so much adrenaline in them, but they were also like trying to play it cool. And all of the authority members were like, they didn't chase him down and say, hey, you get back here. And then like it was a chase through the streets. It was instead like, I can't leave my cart of curios. This is my life. You know, I can't leave all of my stuff that I sell unattended, but I could be like, you know, hey, wait, what does he look like? But they're not running. They're just like pretend. They're like,
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's what I'm going to put in the game this week. And then also, what was my main plot point for the big bad evil guy? Oh yeah, they're kidnapping people. So if they ask people about stuff, there might be like, yeah, I haven't seen Tom in a while. He's, you know, he's young. He doesn't seem like the kind of kid who would run off though. You know, he's always helping his mom out. You know, and then so you're like, okay, do we investigate this teenager who's gone missing? Or, you know, and then also during that, you have this kind of funny real world moment, and then you just let the players tell the rest of the story. And I think that's the key. I'm trying to pin what's the key to telling those long form stories.
Something else, I think, even with the short ones, but like downtime, for instance, I think one thing that helped me with Tower of Trials, is letting the players feel like they aren't necessarily just forced to climb this tower, is, you know, actively, you know, investing into their downtime. For like Ethan could probably speak on a little bit, or how if it seemed all right, but like, you know, his character ended up creating a dojo towards his deity within the city, and you know, one of the players created an embassy to the plane of Earth. One of the players ended up buying an entire orphanage to fund his militia, or field his militia. So, yeah.
You gave me an entire blacksmith shop straight out
True.
the gate, and that was cool. And I immediately used it to be like, I am secretly taking the healing potions from the people I work for and giving it to poor people who need it.
Your character, even when you stopped playing, continued to craft the bonuses to everyone's gear with the crystals from the tower while the rest of the campaign. So
yeah, why make a new guy? keep the one that's already made, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, Ethan, how did you think that felt in terms of like downtime and adding into the story of the campaign?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, it's too easy to spark inspiration or, give me the opportunity to create something else. So I built myself a little sort of battle map or scene on Incarnate, which I used 2 different types of views. So looking back on it, I was like, oh man, this thing sucks. But individually, if you take the inside of the dojo and separate it from the scene that's the outside of the dojo, it actually doesn't look too bad. But because you see like the top down of the dojo itself where they would train inside, and then outside is like a little zen garden with a koi pond and stuff in the back, but that's where like the regional stamps are. So there's like 3D and then top down. It's weird, but yeah, definitely cool. And then the kind of touch on long term versus short term. Yeah, I think long term is where it's at, but I think it's also, a lot harder to find that sort of commitment for all your players and maybe yourself, and just going on with everybody's lives and schedules. It's not always something that's possible, but on the other side of things, like running a long-term campaign, in between I'll get to a point where like, man, it's like I got an idea for another cool story that I want to do, but I don't have time to run 6 games a week like I want to.
Well, and so that happens to me a lot too, and that's what stopped me from doing long-term campaigns. But I think that not having the end of the world currently happening from the beginning to the end of the campaign leaves that space. So I'm about to move into a long form campaign, right? I'm currently running a module, right? That has 2 encounters or 3 encounters, right? And the players I've been letting them really play the space and enjoy themselves, and I've been enjoying it with them. I added a dungeon just to give them a dungeon crawl feel. I think that's, it's a very classic thing, and but it's very pointed, like everything points to this final fight. When we move into, after that happens, when we move into a city where where point of like their place of operation, if they want to stay there, it's, instead of being like, okay, and now the big bad evil guy, which I've dropped hints of, I would like to, they keep popping up, right? They keep little tendrils, the name keeps dropping, stuff like that. But that, the god that I keep dropping to is not going to destroy the world tomorrow. They're going to try to destroy the world when the players are ready to stop a god from destroying the world. That's when all the pieces are going to fall into place. Until then, if they want to do a heist, I think that's cool. I can't put a heist in the middle of a god destroying the world. Like, it's, oh man, how do I fit this in? Instead, I step back. I'm like, okay, I've got this cool idea for a heist. That should be 5 sessions. I'm gonna drop that seed. Then I'm gonna be like, oh, an arena, battle arena. Yeah, okay. So, and then I'm gonna put that seed in there and see which one they pick. See which apple they pick. We'll eat that one for a while. But knowing that I have, the big bad evil guy ready to go, still dropping little hints in here and there. Still affecting from time to time, but not every session, not every storyline. Just keep just a little bit, just pepper it in. And when they're done with the heist, if they're like, okay, what do we do now? We're kind of bored. maybe you guys want to do something epic. Do you guys want to fight in the battle arena? Do you want to go get a magic item? Do you know? Just kind of find out where they want to go. The magic item will be tied to the big bad evil guy somehow, right? Along the way. I think that's kind of the idea of like that I've gathered for a long form campaign. Something different than what you see with Dimension 20 or some of like Exandria Unlimited. It's like, hey, we have 20 sessions to tell a story. You're all professional storytellers. Let's do this. More Critical Role-ish, or like NADPOD or something.
Ico has some pretty good things I've noticed. Obviously, playing Ico's campaigns for so long, but a lot of times when we find
recently, it was amazing. It was so good. It was so fun.
And we find the bits to whatever the main plot is, but there's never like it's rarely like a quick deadline. So there's typically a few days to a couple weeks in between this next, information of when said informant is meeting so and so, just for like an example. So then we have that time to prep, and/or say we follow a bit, or I don't know if this is the reason, but maybe Ico's not ready for that part of the story just yet. So one time we were like, I think we had like 2 weeks to prep for like ambushing this. Our plan was to do like this ambush and try and capture this VIP basically. But when we were like at the planning and stuff, a letter comes in the mail for our artificer that there's this battle bot tournament from the Artificers Guild or whatever, and it's signed by the head Magister Tinkerer or whatever.
They're like hero, like they look at the poster.
Someone
on the
they
wall,
knew from school.
They sent it to me.
Someone they like apprenticed under as young when they were younger, but and anyway, so we ended up creating this robot together to compete in this tournament, and ended up being a piano with like legs. Then our wizard made spell scrolls that were like music reels.
Yeah.
To
like
cast spells at the other robots or whatever, right? But so we go to this tournament, and come to find out, it actually was the Sentinels, this big bad organization we defeated back in like 2015, trying to make a comeback kind of, and they were stealing these bots and the programmings from these bots that were made. And
okay, so there's a mystery involved.
We end up like taking them down though, and they like fly off to one of their hidden bases. They're like the only people capable of making like airships, so they like get away. But anyways, this is like this cool like Mega Man X themed little side storyline that took 5 weeks to finish. And
what's cool about that, so if you have a long form style where you guys had to, obviously you're like, oh, we have to ambush this guy, but also what's also cool, like just first thing that I'm hearing, that steal an airship and become like own an airship. And so it's like, and you could totally use that if you want to do your ambush, right? But if the play, that's like another thing. They're the only ones who can build it, but it's also you here right now, so maybe you take it. And if the story is like, oh, you're going underground, you remove that ability for the players to do this cool thing that they really want to do, and that hinders your storytelling at that point, in their storytelling. Because I think that's another big thing, is it's not just the DM telling the story, it's the player piano robot spell scroll was your wizard telling the story, and I think that's a big part of it, is being like, hey guys, tell me what happens. I'll tell you if you need a roll or something. I'll stop you whenever I want you to roll something. Until then, tell me what happens.
I
Tell
think it's
us.
those little moments like that are also good things to have, kind of available for when you do have players that are going to step out, or are busy. That way they don't feel like they're missing anything gravely important.
Yeah, you don't have to give them a book when they get back.
And it's a good time to let your players just like follow bits as well when you have players that are gone. So, and the only time it really sucks when a player has to be gone is when you're there, like in the middle of a encounter, fighting big bad lieutenant of the boss,
And if you're
but
always fighting them,
yeah,
it feels like you can never miss. Or even like, let's say you've had a hard week and you don't want to be serious this week. Maybe you just want to like guys, I really need a goof this week. This is what I need from my buddies is to goof. And so you kind of take that ability of the game to be something special and impactful for all the people who are involved. You take that away from it, and that's a big part that goes missing. That's a big part of it, is the time that you just did something really stupid and everybody clapped and like helped you. Everybody helped you do the stupid thing, and it was awesome. And then you could go back to being like, all right, I got a hard, thank you. I had a hard week at work. I needed that. Now I can brave back into real life. Or maybe you had a boring week and you're like, guys, I need something serious. I need a real conspiracy to solve. I've been bored all week long.
The good part about it was we thought it was actually had something to do with, the main, like we thought we were going to be gathering information on said bad group, but no, it ended up being a different bad group and had nothing to do with stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great.
And it kind of, you guys made it as serious as you wanted it to be, right? He just Aiko just let you make it as serious as what you wanted, right? And that's part of when you talk about storytelling elements, I've had players like, there's a classic bit in Critical Role where they like chairs, like this chair, what's up with this chair? Like everybody's like focusing on a chair in a room and the DM's just like, it's just a chair. Okay. It's just, he had to break character. It's just a chair. Okay. I don't know. It's just a chair. Stop it. Why don't you check out all the other cool stuff I described?
Yeah.
And there's kind of those moments too, where it's like
the guy clad in mithril armor in the corner, the scar and eye
bleeding
patch.
out, like
what's up with this chair?
He has 3 turns of speaking lines, so make sure you ask him the right questions. You've been focusing on it all week. And they're like, oh my god, dude, the doorknobs are brass, just like the handles on all of the walking sticks and they put together this huge conspiracy. At that point, I think you just put a note on the bottom of the chair. You put you shove some hair in the corner of the chair. Like, if they're focusing that much on it, that's where the information has to come from, right?
Yeah.
This guy's just dies.
Or on the person bleeding out,
tell you.
they just have a note on their chest.
Yeah.
But they don't notice the note. They don't even look. Yeah.
There's
they don't even fucking search them.
Of gold on this guy bleeding out.
No, not even. You never know. They might just charge directly at the magic item you created and destroy it instead of use it. You just never know, Ethan.
It reminds me of the Mummy Lord Ethan's party was supposed to. They were going to defeat, and there's a note with clues and a puzzle, but they ended up just breaking all the doors down and fighting the Mummy Lord without solving anything to get there.
Kill the mummy. And at that moment, you kind of got to be like, you're like, well, this is the story now. It's the time that they just by brute force killed a mummy.
My favorite part about that session too was in the like main tomb. There was like these smaller sarcophagi like along the wall, like braziers in front of each of them, and then there was like the massive one with like the missing jewel, on the forehead, and they go and light all the braziers one by one for some reason. Oh, and it causes the smaller mummies to come out and they kill it. Yeah. Then they go, look at this fascinating decorative, pharaoh sarcophagus.
Wait. What about that? What about that unlit torch though?
So they just ended up, destroying all of the, boss ads to the encounter before the encounter ever began. That was wonderful. I spawned them anyways.
Yeah. Oh, did you? What an asshole. Fuck it, dude. I already planned for this. Did you at least describe the mummy lord's energy, like moving into them and recorporating them or something? Or like,
honestly, I don't remember.
Oh, he must not have.
I wasn't there for that one. So.
Oh, you weren't there for that one?
No.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I mean, I've done that too with my storytelling, and really, I just found that,
I
it's
know
more
what I
telling it
did.
together.
Like as like the rounds were finishing, I was like, depending on their perception, and they're like, you notice like the arm of one of the fallen mummies, like, and then like he comes up. I didn't really say much about the, pharaoh doing it though, but
You didn't spawn them all at the same time though, so that's the.
Oh no.
And then you notice that the empty sarcophagus is like just a whole nother mummy climbs out of it like a video game.
Yeah. What about so when we went on this big spiel when we were talking about downtime, how do you like to use downtime for your campaigns, Ethan?
Oh gosh. I just, try to let the players get their shopping in, if they're in the towns, or I basically just use that as time for players to express, their PCs, who they are, what they're about, what they would do. Just trying to reenact like being their PC, like getting that full role-playing experience, if that's something that they're wanting to try to do. That's the perfect opportunity for you to be that person that you made. So, a lot of people, or I don't want to say a lot of people, but some people just like to play. I think there are players out there that kind of just see it as like a video game, and then there's other people who are like just straight up like trying to get lost and be this character that they've created. Like, they're trying to really escape the world that they're in currently and appear, like live and breathe inside the fantasy world that's provided for them, and really bring out their inner acting, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been exploring that, by the way, this downtime, and I would like to encourage downtime with my players. The first one is leaving that space, which we've gone into depth about. But the second one is giving them things to do that are connected mechanically to their players. So if you have a cleric walking through a town, and this is something I saw in Critical Role's anime, their animation that they did, Vox Machina.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the town and they asked Pike, the cleric. They were like, "Oh, you're a healer, right? You're a holy person. Could you bless our house so the dragon doesn't destroy it?" And I was like, "That's such a cool idea." So you have a cleric walking around, and somebody's like, they run up and they're like, "Excuse me, my husband's sick and hasn't been able to work. Do you think you could heal them?" And not like go out into the forest and collect 14 daylilies from the mountainside that's covered in wyverns or something, but rather just you go in and the dude has a cold or something, or he's just sick, and you're like, "Oh yeah, hold on a second, let me interact with these people." Or, "Excuse me, I know this is strange, but," as you see this young excited couple walk up, "I'm Tevin, and this is Jonathan, and we're getting married today, but we didn't know there would be a cleric of Yara here. Would you conduct the ceremony for us? It would mean so much to us. His mother was part of the clergy, and my father, he always kept a book around, and it would just mean a lot to us if you would do that. Or maybe there's a funeral, that somebody needs to speak words over, and just have NPCs come up and do that." And so I've been writing down little moments. Also, the magic items that gain magic property each time. Like, this is a +1 sword that allows you to cast like the light spell on it for free after you have spent, and again, this is like, we'll go with the cleric idea, after you have spent 24 hours, or after you've spent 1 day providing help to the public, right? Or after you tithe, tithing so much of your earthly gains gives these bracers the ability to cast shield, and you get 1 charge of it, or however much charge you want to give them based on level and stuff, but you tie it directly to the character's backstory or their class and then the world. And you say, when you interact, if you spend 8 hours training with somebody else, this armor will allow you to have a battle master dice and the ability to parry and riposte until you use that charge, right? And to gain that charge again, you need to practice those maneuvers. You need to spend 8 hours practicing these maneuvers, or however, whatever mechanical thing you want to do. So now the player is like, "Hey, what do you guys want to, so you guys you're going to rest for the night. What would you like to do?" It's like, "Oh, I'm going to ask that guy over there to spar with me." And you guys you're going to spend time with another player sparring. And that is going to set a scene for if the bandits, if bandits show up, or if wolves aren't going to come check you out because it's the sound of clanking metal, right? So you're like, oh, it sets the scene. It helps them tell the story, but it gives them a reason to, because now this armor gives me extra combat stuff until the next time I need to do it. So I've been creating a bunch of magic items that do that, and to encourage my players to do stuff in their downtime, to interact with the world other than just goblins and dungeons and hit points and armor class.
Yeah.
Thought about the cleric thing whenever you're saying, they're getting married and you're cleric of Yara. It's like, I didn't prepare the ceremony spell, sorry.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But I mean, just because you don't have the spell doesn't mean you can't conduct the ceremony at the same time, right? I would just give you this. You know, if you, I'd be like, it's
Yeah,
fine. Don't
it's
worry.
more
About it.
for
They're gonna pay you 25
comedic.
silver pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so
Yeah.
you're just you just shut it down.
If you're ever
Yeah,
trying
sorry,
to get out of it, be
my
like, sorry guys, I didn't prepare that. You know,
my
last
out
notice.
my other dimensional controller, didn't prepare that spell today.
Yeah.
Usually I
That's
have
funny.
to pray first, to be able to do
Yeah.
this. I got my own
We do this
little.
tomorrow. Is tomorrow?
Yeah, I
good?
gotta sleep for a few hours before I can.
I've been on a real bender. if I'm not gonna,
And another thing
we
though
were
for like
just drinking and arm
downtime,
wrestling.
sorry,
So
creating kind of like we're saying, but having like maybe just like a document or like a list somewhere of I won't say popular, but possible downtime activities also
Mhm.
can help for your players to feel like involved or help inspire them to think of other things to do other than, oh, I'm gonna buy my rations, gonna buy my new health potions. Okay, I'm done. But
so I've been thinking about that. So they walk by the town square and there's a fountain, and there's just like this, like a homeless guy bathing in the fountain, just bathing in the fountain. Or they walk by and there is they're going to buy the potions, and as they're walking down the street there's a lover's quarrel. There's like this woman's in a 2-story window and she's throwing shit out the window, and there's this dude standing there with like no pants on, just got like a shirt covering up his delicate, not his delicates, his private parts or whatever, his dick. And she's just like yelling at him, just throwing shoes, and I told you that this is the last time. He's like, baby, please, I'm sorry. No, it's not what you think. you know, and they're just, and this is just happens as you go to get your rations. Let the player do what they want with that. I think
Yeah.
one of my more favorite ones that I came up with was there's this old woman feeding the stray dogs, right? And she's like talking to them. No, I told you, you be nice now. And she hits one on the nose with a ladle. You must share, right? And she's got these big, thick glasses on. She can hardly see. And as you walk by, you realize they're like giant rats. They're dire rats. And she thinks they're dogs. And she's like the source of like the rat problem, you know? And she has no clue. She thinks she's just feeding stray dogs. You don't kill this old lady, you know?
murder
But-
her dogs.
Yeah, right. Like, what do you do? Do you even get involved? Like,
What are you doing to Lassie?
yeah. That's spots, and that's tickles, and that's socks.
That's
And
great.
just so you introduce a giant rat problem that they may or may not even want to deal with. Nobody's paying them gold for it. They just see this old woman who doesn't know any better, and they're like, do I have time for this? Do I even, giant rats? Do I even deal with this? And I just stuff like that, I think it's fun to put into your world. Just let them play with it. Here, do you want to play with this or not? Before you get your
Mhm.
rations.
Does throwing them those bits like that though, does that make them? You ever had players like feel obligated to deal with it?
So I don't know yet. I've, ever since I've come back into DMing in the past few years, I haven't done a long form campaign.
Mhm.
I've done a bunch of short forms, because I've been, I get a lot of new players, and then everybody's like, oh, I want to play. I'm like, oh, I'm about to finish a story arc, and then I'll run a bunch of brand new players through the game. Like I currently have 7 brand new players or something, or 6 brand new players, and then peppered in there are veterans players that I'm like, hey, come play with these guys. So I haven't got to do that yet, and so we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out if they really want to, like, if it makes them feel obligated or not.
What about you, Ethan? In terms of like dropping bits like that, just they're on their way to do whatever they're like trying to do, but like you like add to the scenery like that.
I think the first game was more just if I felt like adding a little point on the map. I think that's how I used to build maps whenever they're going to the next areas. Is I'd always either put something in, like a point of interest, and if they wanted, they could always go and explore that. But that's kind of newer to me. I was just focused on like the main story, and if the players decided to do other things, then we kind of just went with it. But I didn't really plan for a whole lot outside of that.
Right.
But I'm definitely doing it more in my in-person game right now, as far as like
Okay.
adding things.
Just adding little bits here and there. See what they
Yeah, so
if they
the
want to go,
current
they will.
place,
If not.
kind of started building my own module. Like, I have it written out
Oh, nice.
for the Elden Vale. So went into a little bit of detail as far as like the people that make up this village, the shops, the characters who own the establishments, some sort of personalities, what they do, and some of them, if not all of them, can provide some sort of quest. I have, I think, 4 main chapters built out, so some of them are tied to at least one of those things, and then some of them are not, which will be like the random sort of encounters built out if they decide to pursue those. So I incorporated Zalnan's mother, Arena, which was the elf. She has her blacksmith shop there in this village, and I think Kevin and another player are currently, they went straight to the forge and were like, hey, we want some weapons, because they didn't have any, and they don't have any money to really have any built. And she's like, he's like, this is a hefty price. If you get some materials, though, I can kind of cut it down, but creating a magic item for you is still expensive. So they at least have a lead on what materials or some sort of ore components to gather to help create a magic item. And then another chapter in the story, there's like a board of wanted posters for the players to pursue to be able to obtain gold that way, or they'll be rewarded for helping out the South Warden, which is like the leader of the village. And one of them's a thief, so I'm sure they'll find a way to make some money as well, because there's a Black Blades fence in this village tucked away as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I think this time around, just taking the time to kind of actually fully flesh out a small village's inhabitants is an easy way to be able to make these sort of naturally occurring um, sort of side quests or hooks that the players can take that aren't necessarily directly along the path of that main story arc.
No, those are good ideas.
Evan, I think that we should take the time right now to spring something on Ethan, and that is something that's happening in the town that he didn't know about, to add to this potentially for the next time they play. I think that somebody should be sneaking around at night. I don't know why, but they're sneaking around doing something.
I would say yes to that, but I'm still going to say yes to that because there already is something doing that.
You know what? So I'm gonna mention something recycled that you can,
Okay.
kind of use, but it is a wonderful little bit. In front of Baldy's bar, there's a fish man, a humanoid fish guy that sells apples from an apple cart. So
That's it. That's it.
that's
And
it.
there's not a whole
That's
lot going
it.
on with this guy. He
He's
likes,
kind
okay,
of mooching on
has a
Baldy's
cup of coffee.
property, taking advantage of his customers, and he always speaks like,
He has a cup of coffee every morning. He sells
Okay.
apples till 5. He goes and he gets the same thing every day, the same plate of food every day, and then he goes home, in bed early, doesn't wash his clothes, sleeps in the same.
But who is he? Who's this fish man?
Is it young Craig?
Young Craig. Oh, I forgot about young Craig. Yes.
How could you?
What?
I think
a
okay. So
wonderful time.
I think that there are 2 teenagers who are sneaking out at night to, and it seems really, really nefarious at first, like hooded figures and all this, and they're sneaking out at night to meet up in the woods to do just teenager stuff, right? So they're meeting to just put graffiti and practice ollies on the picnic tables at the park. 2 of them are exploring young love, just by talking and maybe holding hands or something, smoking cigarettes, just whatever it is, just doing just silly teenager stuff at night whenever there's no adults around to tell them they can or can't, and just kind of sneaking off to do that sort of thing. Maybe they're playing D&D, maybe it's the players roll up on them playing pretend. I think, something maybe along those lines. There's just the teenagers are sneaking out at night to just do teenager stuff without the watchful eye of the adults.
Is the village on a coast?
It's not too far away.
Okay, so there's no dock.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, so here, kind of, it's the hunting community, and they're on for the annual hunt. Whatever the majestic beast it may be, whoever gets the biggest one, gets the trophy.
Yes.
It's bragging rights in that town. Their name gets etched onto the
a
annual
trophy
hunt plaque.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. It's hunting season. We've lived in small towns. We know what happens during hunting season. It turns into a whole nother place for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Everybody's walking around
to see how much it weighs.
Yeah.
You get into town and everybody's wearing everybody has weapons all of a sudden in the place. You see your principal with a gun in the grocery store in full fucking Rambo style, and you're like, hi, and he's just like, yeah, missed one this morning, but I think he's coming back around. You're
They're all wearing coveralls. Everybody in town's wearing coveralls and
yeah. That's wild. Yeah, that's cool. I forgot about that happening. That's a real life thing that we could pull from too. You know, growing up
You could
kind of in the
even
country.
go even further, and it could be like the king's annual hunt, or whatever. Like
And the
that one
townspeople are
where,
like, no, 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 no.
yeah,
We're
all the
better.
dukes, or all the leaders from they know that country, that part of the country. They all meet up, and then
Yeah.
it's like the big thing.
Yeah, like the rite of
Or
passage
it could just
for
be. What if it's just?
Yeah.
for like somebody
What if it's just
coming
a
of
duke?
age, or
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
like a bloodning, somebody's first hunt.
The king's son.
Yeah, and they make him like eat the heart, and it's like he throws up and stuff, and then they all laugh. They're like, "Nobody does that!" Haha! I remember when they
Yeah.
pulled that on me. Haha!
Yeah, then of course there's some sketchy freaking like high elf that's just chilling around, following him around with him. It's like the king's advisor, and he's always got like these like canted eyebrows and
dark
just
circles.
this sort of maniacal eyeliner, and
Yeah.
I feel like you're referencing
then he
Jafar
goes
right
doesn't
now.
like it here.
then he starts like eating. The kid kills the animal and starts eating the heart as part of tradition, but that guy turns it into a ritual. Then like a demon summons out of the kid's
I
body.
guess you could do that. Yeah, that could be a thing that you
Oh,
could do.
Something.
What level are they? What the fuck?
I don't know.
It might be
Doesn't matter.
kind of off topic, but this is no, you could feed this in. Something I did as a player, actually, in my first campaign. This is back when. Yeah, this was in 2008 or maybe early 2009, but we were in town, and the innkeeper, all dressed in red, said of factory. We had to go to his factory to like pick something up for him, or like someone was trying to take it over, well, whatever. It's been a long time, so some of the fine details are a little blurry, but we go there to help out, and we're greeted by the gnomes at the shop, and they hand us cookies and coffee and tea, and we oh, thanks, it's like near the entrance, or like just inside. And those of us that ate it and drank it, end up based on if you save or not. And notice it's an illusion. They aren't gnomes at all. They're all goblins. And this is a toy factory. And we come to find out, we kill this orc at the end and take the factory back. And the innkeeper was actually Santa, and we saved Christmas from the Grinch. So. A wonderful Christmas themed encounter. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have Santa just chilling in one of your towns, and everybody don't even know it.
Save that for an Ever for Us story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they won't know it's Santa until like the very end. They'll just think it's
We won't know that the giant guy with the beard isn't Santa.
It's just
we
like some
didn't. None of us
creature
knew
lurking.
anything until we got to the end, and we were fighting. Like we realized, oh, we're fighting the Grinch.
Oh,
okay.
That's so funny.
We're like, wow, excellent job. And then at the very beginning, one of the first encounters I ever did, we were sent to the grave yard, and we get to like save this like key figure that we were supposed to save. And
Jack Skellington.
I think if Severin's still here, he may remember this. But we get there, and like the DM drew the medallion, and I didn't really know much about Star Trek, but it's a Star Trek medallion symbol. And when we unlock the guy, we free him at the end of this crypt, and it turns out it's Captain Kirk, and he like ports us up to his ship, and it causes our druid to like go insane from being magically teleported into space, and he's stuck drooling in bear form. That was a great time for a first like actual like main encounter.
Yeah. I think you should.
Little-
I think you should pepper in a non-demon summoning encounter, Ethan. You should just. It should just
non-demon
be like a regular non-demon
It's
summoning.
like,
Yeah.
you have so
A
many of
regular thing.
those.
Yeah, see,
You really
Severin
gotta
said
cut
I can
back on
verify.
them.
Remember how we were talking about like it's hard as a DM not to be like, and the world is ending.
And just because a demon's being summoned doesn't mean that's world ending. There's a lot of low level
I
demons.
mean,
Tieflings live in the world regularly, right?
Have you
Technically.
seen a wretch? That thing's not taking over the world. Maybe somebody's
all right.
dumpster or, you know,
Yeah.
their dog cage.
Or some poor kid who's being tricked into eating the heart of a deer by all of his peers, by all his uncles.
Tricked.
It'd be real funny if you're like chasing down this cult, and you're trying to stop them from summoning a demon, but they end up being like really weak, and they summon this little fragile, like decrepit looking, weak demon, and then the whole party just memes on the bad guy.
Dang it.
Like that's
Yeah.
all. That's really all you can summon.
I messed it up again.
Yeah.
I always get that one rune off.
Yeah.
Always
Oh,
some
someone
minor
broke-
detail.
someone-
Teenagers.
Damn it.
They could
Part
be
of the
teenagers.
chalk for the circle is like there's a little gash in it where the line's not touching like an inch off.
Yeah.
Like no. Yeah.
It's like, so did you summon a
think that I'm
Baylor
just gonna-
today? No.
Yes.
I forgot to connect the pentagram on the bottom right quadrant again.
I accidentally summoned Tom.
Yeah. Oh fuck Tom, dude.
Anyways. Well, did anybody learn anything today?
I did.
Uses of downtime.
I did. I learned that even if we preface building downtime activities without a intended combat or especially climactic like tension building moment, we still want to put a demon in there somewhere.
Or
And we
use
can't help
demon.
ourselves. Yeah, and but then it's a summoning ritual, right? It's like, no, calm down,
Mhm.
DM. It's not. It's just a birthday party. It's just a birthday party. But then, when he blows the candles out, though, that's the final part of the spell. That's what I learned today.
What about you, Ethan?
Definitely
Any
will be,
tools?
Yeah, I will definitely be thinking about incorporating what you mentioned earlier as far as making a list of potential things for your players to do in their downtime,
Yeah, it's cool.
just to have some ideas.
How'd you guys feel about the items? Like, what are your thoughts on building an item that gives a bonus if they do something in their downtime? Or
I think it's a
win?
great idea. That's something I was like for my mind. That's something I was gonna. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
If another idea in a more like hardcore game, if you don't train and keep up with those things, could you potentially lose proficiency?
It's Super Saiyan.
Ooh.
That's funny.
Of that
Potentially.
specific item, or like a lose attunement if it's attuned.
Well, if you're like a warrior and
Look, it's Super Saiyan.
you have like a proficiency with a specific fighting style or a weapon, typically you'd be like practicing doing that and stuff to
yeah.
maintain
But you've been.
that
It's
sort
like,
of
oh
thing,
god, I haven't
but,
held a short sword.
Yeah, what if you went like a week
Ages.
without?
Ages, yeah.
Or like a whole campaign, like you're level 1 to level 5, you've been using a battle axe.
But I guess there would
find
be the
short sword.
thing like, it's like, well, you're technically using it in battle still, so it's not like you're going without it.
Right.
But I don't know. Just
I think I always like the
I
idea
guess
of
the negative probably
using
wouldn't be that
downtime
great.
to. Yeah. I like the idea of using downtime to switch proficiencies as well.
Yeah. If you
Like
can
if somebody's like,
build up to it, use a few downtimes to like learn some techniques on this different weapon,
yeah, it's like, man, I want
like an exotic
I
weapon.
want to use the short sword. Okay, practice.
All right. Well, I think to close
you learn?
off. Oh,
What'd
I
you
said
learn, Evan?
the items that give
Oh,
more
okay.
meaningful downtime. Yeah.
Well, I think on the
Um,
next creation stream, we should maybe get together and make those. What do you guys think about that? Doing a creation stream of just like making some of these cool downtime items.
Yeah, if I can. But I'm about to be gone for a month.
Oh.
Besides the point,
Mm-hmm.
I think we closed this off with everyone saying maybe, I guess we'll keep it at one. Doesn't have to be your favorite, but one of your most memorable, like what moments of storytelling that you enjoyed. Rather, it's something you were a player in, or something you watched. Either way. I'll start. So I think one of my favorites is Bernally Mulligan and the Halflings. I think a few people have seen that clip of the Halflings rappelling in and opening fire, and it is
Oh yeah.
this is one of my tops. And I think it's mainly because I had like the connection to like I have already been a part of creating a Halfling Special Forces organization like over the last like 6 years, and so it's like like that got me in the. I was like, someone else gets it.
Do you know how that started, by the way?
I
Did you watch
actually
that campaign?
don't. No, I
Okay.
didn't see like all of it.
So in that campaign, it's a mix between fantasy and reality. So it's a fantasy world that's in the modern day kind of. And
Mhm.
it's a bunch of high school kids going to a magical fantasy high school. It's called Fantasy High. And in the scene, they are there's like some motorcycle gang guys. Johnny Spells is like the leader of the gang, and they're chasing him, and they like steal they're spying on him, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? And they push their motorcycles over, so they're like, oh dude, get him. And they jump in Johnny Spell's hot rod, right, like grease, and they get in grease lightning, and they take off, and it's a chase scene, right? And as they're being chased, they fail a roll towards the end, and they crash into a car, and it's a family of halflings, right? And it's like a postmaster, and like another one is the wife she's a homemaker. She works at like at City Hall or something, and they're like, oh God, don't tell anybody. And he's like, oh well, gang, I wouldn't tell anybody that. Like, what am I gonna do? Run around to the authoritarians around here and tell them so they can come out with their militia with guns and tell us what to do with our stuff? I don't think so. It's like, wait, don't you work for the government? Well, you got to take them down from the inside, baby. That's what I say. And there's these like organization of anti-establishmentarians, and they're just like anti-authoritarian, anti-government, like libertarian family of halflings. It's like, well, I tell you what, we won't tell anybody. Oh, you're running from somebody? Well, jump on in. Let's go get some ice cream. They won't mess with us. And they go off. And then later, when they need to be released from jail, who comes in? But the anti-authoritarian, libertarian. Well,
Spoiler alert, stop there, by the way.
Oh, spoiler alerts, yeah. The game's been out for like 10 years, guys, or
Hey.
something. You know, come on.
If you're a new player and you're
But
just joining the scene, though,
yeah. And it's a great thing to watch because it's that moment of taking just a cool character idea that you have, and then later on you need a character. Just use the people that you've already brought into the world that ran, because they, you run into a car and he's like, who are they? And they're like, oh, he's like, it's a family. And they're like, oh no, did we hurt this family? And they didn't run away. They, like, as they were teenagers, so they like begged for forgiveness from these adults, you know, and it just naturally emerged from that.
Yeah.
And so they are really, really cool characters.
What about you, Ethan? What's one of your what's a moment of storytelling you enjoyed?
When I first started, something I did to help myself learn was just watch highlight reels of cool stuff to, also give me inspiration for, like what would be cool things that could happen. One that stuck would be in Critical Role when they encounter a spoiler alert, the Rakshasa, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah, that's
And Liam
totally
encounters it personally, and it's a pretty cool scene. Matt does a really good job of voice acting for his characters, so that's a pretty intense moment. I'm sure you could Google Rakshasa Critical Role and probably get it.
How about you, Justin?
I think for me, something that really stands out. I mean, they all really stand out to me. Like, there's so many moments. But I think I'm gonna go with NADPOD. So this is not another D&D podcast. It's Brian Murphy and Emily Axford and Jake from Jake and Amir, if you guys ever watch the old College Humor stuff, and Caldwell Tanner from Drawfee, and he's a Disney animator, and really, really fun podcast. And I think there's this great storytelling where in the very beginning of this campaign, they all come together at a bar, and each character just gets their moment, and there are some barbarians who are just being assholes, and they don't fight them right off the bat, and the NPC that they meet is a total weenie. Absolute just yellow-bellied weenie. And they were like, the barbarians were like, give us, hey, we're empty over here. Like in the middle of the conversation he's like, well, gang, the jamboree's off because all the teens are gone, so we can't have the Boy Scout meeting, and I'm going home probably. Well, I don't have any money left, and they're like, hey, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, well, I'll absolutely bring you up, buying you another one for sure. And they're like, don't buy them beer. They're like, I'm buying them beer. I am. They're big, and there's a lot of them. And yep, more beer on me. Yes, sir. And they were like, they went from like disregarding the barbarians to being like, hey, you leave our, but they didn't want to call him a friend. So they weren't even like, leave our friend alone. They were kind of like, I don't know, you suck, dude. Like, you lost all of these teenagers, and you're like, we don't want to help you. And it wasn't until the barbarians were like, I don't know, like hit on one of the players or told somebody else to do something. They're like, oh, now we're going to kick your ass. But it stands out to me. An NPC, that sucks. He's just a weenie. Like, you want to hate this. You want to hate on this guy,
Mm-hmm.
And that really stood out to me.
Well, awesome. I enjoyed all the ideas and tools and ways to build story and our favorite stories. But I think that is it for tonight's point of inspiration. So thank you to everyone that watched.
Yeah.
And
Everybody who's going to watch later, and your games are going to go miraculously because of all of these things that we've said. Some of which you'll be like, not going to do that, bad idea. And you're welcome for not having to make that mistake. You know?
for sure.
Yep, and you'll come back here and you'll be like, did I follow them? I really need to follow them if I didn't.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, guys, hook us up, help us out.
You can find the podcast on Spotify and Apple or iTunes. And weekly, we have sessions of our current campaigns that we are playing or DMing in.
Yeah, I've got mine's on Tuesday. I run a game on Tuesday. It's coming to its culmination, so tune in for that.
Wednesday and Thursdays.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was about to. I didn't know if you guys wanted to do it yourselves or, but I'll. Yeah. On Wednesdays we have Ethan's running a game. It's a war campaign where we revisit the thing that the big bad evil guy started, that the players originally didn't get to participate in. You know, they were behind the scenes. They were dodging past this terrible war that literally cut the continent in half. And so we, as other characters in the world, get to see what the impact is. And on Thursdays, thanks for watching, guys. And then on Thursdays we have Evan playing in a game with who's running it. It's not Aiko, right? Somebody else is running it.
Ben is running it.
Ben's running
Aiko,
it.
Steven, and Chris are players.
Yeah.
It's Spark Hollow using Index Card RPG system.
It's a good one. You guys like that one?
It's very open-ended, very open for creativity in terms of how you do things, like your spells. It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds really. I've been trying to release the constraints on my players as well. So, but yeah, come tune in and you get to see how I run, how I play, and how I play, how Ethan runs and how he plays, and how Evan plays with the people who have been playing a game since 2008. Like the dream team over here, the Globetrotters. And other than that, I love you guys.
Have a good night.
See you next time.